Welcome on into the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah insider for KSL Sports. Recording solo on a Sunday night with the bye week. I gave the boys the weekend off. Told them I'd handle it tonight. So it's just me. Got 3 games left coming out of the bye week. And looking forward to what's coming for the Utes. So going to talk about some of the action this weekend, how it impacts Utah's Big 12 title hopes, where they're at in the title race, what they need potentially to make it to Arlington, and then also going to talk a little running Utes basketball. Utah's started the season 2-0 with wins over San Jose State and Weber State, and just have some quick thoughts, on Alex Jensen and the new program, and they've continued to build momentum on the recruiting trail as well. They picked up a commitment on Sunday just continue to build the program out. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. So Utah enjoyed their bye week this weekend. I think it was a pretty light week from what I've gathered. Kyle Whittingham talked about their desire to prioritize rest this week, to follow sort of the same practice schedule that they had the first bye week, which included a practice Tuesday and then a pretty light practice on Wednesday, and then I think it was a walkthrough Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. So again, just for Utah, it was a good opportunity, a good timing with the bye week after getting through that October schedule with Arizona State, BYU, Colorado, and Cincinnati to go 3-1. Obviously, would have liked to seen 4-0, obviously, especially now. But Utah coming out of that 7-2 on the season, I think is something that a lot of people would have taken, prior to the season beginning. So Utah's rested up. There's a lot of motivation now as well. Talking to a couple people around the program, a great deal of motivation with where they were seated on Tuesday in the college football playoff ranking debut, coming in 13th. A lot of excitement about what that means and what that could mean for them moving forward. So for Utah, it's all about taking care of business. And when you look at the upcoming matchups, you're going on the road to Waco to take on the Baylor Bears, who have been up and down this season. It's been a roller coaster ride for Dave Aranda. They've had to fire a coach and make some changes, and it's just continued to be an up and down sort of experience for the Bears. And when you look at the matchup specifically, and we'll talk more about it throughout the week, obviously, but you really like how Utah matches up. The book on Baylor is run the ball and protect the ball, and you'll have a pretty good shot at winning. And that's what Utah does. They run the ball, they protect the ball, and they play good defense. So this is a pretty favorable matchup for the Utes. And then, obviously you've got Kansas State coming to Rice-Eccles Stadium, and Kansas State is sort of that pesky, won't go away. I think they're capable of beating just about anybody in the conference, but also capable of losing to anybody in the conference. And that's what you get when you have a quarterback like Avery Johnson, who is as talented as any quarterback in the league, but also just continues to make a lot of, baffling decisions at times. And I think I was anticipating him taking a bigger step forward this season when he's locked in and when he's on his game, he's really good. But again, it's just the inconsistency for them has really hurt Kansas State and put them in a tough spot this season. So them coming to Salt Lake City obviously helps. And again, similar story there. Utah matches up really well, given the fact that they run the ball and they play defense tougher than just about anybody else on their schedule outside of Texas Tech, who they took on last week and lost by a couple scores. So Utah looks good there. And then with Kansas, they just dropped a game to Arizona over the weekend, 24-20. And that was something where I think you wanted Kansas to win that game just so it helps Utah's own strength of schedule and all that. Kansas, again, similar to Baylor and Kansas State, they're capable of competing and looking great one week, and then another week they just don't look all that capable. And so that's sort of been the beat on them. And with Jalen Daniels, they're always going to have a chance. But, I think, again, the thing that makes that game specifically much tougher than it looks on paper is the fact that it is a Friday morning 10 a.m. kick on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. I just booked my travel for the game there. I have to fly in Wednesday night, leave Saturday morning, and so it's stuff like that. It's a weird week with it being Thanksgiving, and so it's that's going to be a tricky one. And for Utah, it's as simple as win out, and then BYU and Cincinnati both losing one more game apiece. To get into a multi-team tiebreaker, that's the ticket for Utah to punch their ticket to Arlington for the Big 12 title game. So that's as simple as it is. Is Utah winning out, BYU and Cincy both losing one more game, and when you look at the upcoming, when you look at the remaining three games for each of these programs, it's doable. It's doable. You look at obviously we talked about what Utah's got on their schedule with Baylor, Kansas State, and Kansas. For BYU, they will they'll host TCU. They'll go on the road to Cincinnati, and then they'll host UCF as well. So, does BYU run the table? If they do, they're going to Arlington. If they drop one of these games, and I think what you're looking for is the Cincinnati Bearcats to get the win. That's probably the best way for this to all boil down. And then you're looking at Cincinnati. They're going to need to drop one as well. And they take on Arizona, BYU, obviously, and then TCU to finish up the year. And that game will be on the road at TCU. So you look at those games for each of those programs, and pretty favorable, but certainly there's plenty of room for both BYU and Cincinnati to drop one of those three games remaining on their schedule. So beyond that, if Arizona State runs the table and they go 7-2, if they factor into it, if Houston factors into it, it doesn't really change things, from in terms of how big it gets. Basically, what you need 4 teams in a multi-team tiebreaker for Utah to have the edge and punch their ticket based on conference opponent win percentage, which would favor Utah. So that's what you need. You need multiple teams in the tiebreaker, and obviously the most likely scenario is Utah, BYU, Houston, Cincinnati ending up all tied together. And again, that would end in Utah meeting Texas Tech in Arlington for the Big 12 title game. Now, as for Utah's college football playoff at-large bid, that I think the Big 12 took a hit this weekend with the way that Texas Tech and BYU game played out. Unfortunately, just as excited as we were to talk about the Big 12 potentially earning three bids this year, with the way that BYU stunk it up on Saturday, I think we can throw any thought of the Big 12 getting 3 bids this year out the window, unless just absolute chaos ensues these final 3 weeks. But the Cougs got embarrassed, and that's not going to reflect well on the Big 12. And look, like Texas Tech, that's just what they do. They have an elite defense, right? They have an elite defense. It is really good, and that's I'm excited to get to a game down there at Jones AT&T Stadium to see the atmosphere. Obviously, that place was rocking. College game day was there. The place was juiced. It was amped with Mahomes there and everything. They had everything working in their favor. It was, it was pretty cool to see that. So I'm excited to get to a game there eventually. I know they've got it on the schedule for 2027. I think, anyways. That's when that game will be played for Utah and Texas Tech. But with the way that game went, with Texas Tech just completely dominating BYU, any thought of 3 bids this year for the Big 12, unfortunately, I think is on life support. So with that, I think what we'll see on Tuesday is BYU falling from 7, obviously, but I still think they'll be placed directly above Utah. So will it be Texas Tech moving up to 7, potentially higher? I don't know that they'll be able to move higher than 7, but they should. They'll obviously move up and take BYU spot at the very least, and then BYU will fall, and we'll anticipate Utah staying locked in place at 13. But you never know with the playoff committee, so we'll say that it'll be Texas Tech at 7, BYU at 12, and Utah at 13. So what's it going to require for Utah to secure an at-large bid? Well, again, just talking about it, and the remaining 3 weeks, you're going to need BYU to drop another game, and then you're just going to have to take care of business as best you can against your schedule. Do what you've done in the last, in 3 of the last 4 games and completely dominating, and get help elsewhere. And that's where we're at with the college football playoff at large bid as well. And I think again, it's doable when you look at the schedules remaining for the teams ahead of Utah currently. With obviously with Notre Dame, you're going to be hoping for some significant chaos there, and perhaps we get it. We'll see. But, with Texas and Oklahoma, they've got a tough schedule. Both of them. Both have tough schedules. So there's certainly the opportunities for those 2 teams, Texas and Oklahoma, to drop 1 or 2, hopefully 2 games. I think that's what it's going to require, is both of those programs losing 2 of the final 3 games in order for Utah to move up to 10. You don't want to fall at 12. You don't want to come in at 12. You want to be 11. You want to be 10 at the very least to have a chance in an at-large bid. So that's the goal for Utah. And again, the only thing that they can do is continue to take care of business and perform the way they have. So again, just kind of sharing some thoughts on the program. It sounds like, again, rest was the priority for this team, and it came at just the right time. Guys are feeling it. Guys are banged up. Everybody's got injuries. Everybody's got bumps and bruises. So the bye week comes at a great time for Utah to reset, refresh, and get ready for the final 3 games of the season. There's a lot of opportunity ahead for this program. And, I think getting to 7 wins at this point is huge, and potentially getting to 9, 10 wins in the regular season, phenomenal. Again, going back to the preseason conversations, a lot of people would be very happy with 9 or 10 wins. Now, obviously, with where we're at now, 10 is the expectation now, and I think it would be a little disappointing if Utah doesn't get to 10 wins at this point. So that's the goal. Utah's got to take care of business as best they can, and yeah, that's where we're at. And I think it's interesting. I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine over the weekend, and we were talking about how fun this season has been. And I think that's been a big thing for Utah fans, right? When we talk about the previous 2 seasons, how difficult it was joyless. There wasn't a lot of joy, and you didn't have things to point to that gave you reason to be optimistic or to have fun, right? Especially last season, with the way that season went, with Cam going down early on in the year thanks to a freaking Gatorade cooler, and then he returns, and 3 plays into the Arizona State game, is rolled up on and suffers a season-ending injury, and it's just like, what's going on? And so I think this season has been really good for the Utah fan base. It's been fun, it's been entertaining, and I think that above all else I shouldn't say above all else, but that has been so valuable for this program as we get closer to the end of the season and we start talking about what's on the horizon in the offseason, right? Within the relative conversation of the transfer portal, I just think there's going to be greater motivation for everybody to kind of stick around and to continue to build things compared to last year. Right, you're still going to have your difficulties with the transfer portal because that's just the nature of the business now. But compared to the previous year, I think things are going to be a little different. I think Utah can be a little bit more aggressive, be on the offensive, even this year with the transfer portal, and I think that could be really beneficial. Obviously, we've watched this team, and this offense is really, really fun. It's a lot of fun to watch, but there's clearly areas of that side of the ball that Utah needs help, and it starts on the perimeter at wide receiver. They need to add another tight end or so, and so going into the offseason with this type of season to build on, I think will allow Utah to potentially add those pieces to the roster this offseason to make another run in 2026. So, yeah, I think things are trending positively for Utah, but this team, with conversations that I've had with, about players and coaches and their mindset right now, it's all one game at a time. Last week or 2 weeks ago, it was all once they got the Colorado win, it was on to Cincinnati, and everybody talked about we got to beat Cincinnati. And so this week, it's all about beating Baylor, and that's sort of the mindset that they've taken on. So again, with the bye week to regroup and recalibrate, you know, for the final stretch of the season. Really looking forward to how this team finishes the year. Let's switch gears here. Let's talk a little running Utes basketball. I have been up there now for 2 games, a couple exhibitions, and well, I shouldn't say 2 games and a couple exhibitions, but they've played 2 regular season games. I watched both exhibitions, one at home versus Nevada, and the other one on the road against Oregon. And with this running Utes squad, I think it is a more entertaining brand of basketball for just the casual fan. I think Utah has guys that can do things that the previous rosters under Craig Smith just weren't capable of doing. With players like Terrence Brown and Don McHenry, guys that can break defenders down off the dribble, blow by defenders with their athleticism, get to the rim. I think it's just an easier on the eyes type of watch for running Utes fans. And with this team, watching this offense, the ball movement can be really, really fun. It can be a lot of fun to watch this group move the ball. There's not a lot of get ball, look, observe, take a half second, take a second. It is get ball, boom, make a decision. It's quick. The tempo, there is a high tempo offense, and again, I think it speaks to sort of what Jensen wants on the offensive side of the ball. He wants guys that can make quick decisions. He wants guys that can break down defenders, that have the athleticism to get to the rim, guys that are capable of shooting. This isn't a tremendously strong shooting team, but they've got a couple shooters and a couple guys that are emerging that can knock down shots. Jacob Patrick is the spot up shooter for this team, and he's been really good in catch and shoot situations. I think he's knocked down 4 so far this season, and he's a tough defender as well. He's willing to move his feet. He's willing to defend. He's tough. He's not the most athletic guy, but he's a guy that I think will be really, really important. What's been probably the most pleasant surprise so far through the first 2 games has been true freshman Kendall Saunders. He's sort of settled into a role as kind of a corner 3 specialist. He knocked down 2 more against Weber State. I think he had one against San Jose State as well. But he's kind of a nice find for Utah. A 6'8", 215-pound freshman was a late find out of IMG Academy. And he's a post-grad type of kid. And he's kind of emerged as a player that I think is going to continue to see minutes and see have a role in the rotation as we move forward against tougher competition. I think he's really impressed, and as long as he just continues to put in the effort, knock down shots while they're there, obviously that's going to continue. What's been really interesting with this team, Seydou Traore, 23 points on 9 of 14 shooting on Monday against San Jose State, and then goes scoreless against Weber State. And I think that's going to be an interesting thing to watch in these next few games. How assertive is he going to be? I thought he was really assertive coming into the season, having watched scrimmage and watching the exhibitions. He played against Nevada at least I should say the first half, didn't play against Oregon. But in my opportunities to watch this team, I always thought that he was pretty assertive and looked for His offense looked for offense for others, looked capable of generating offense for others. We saw that Monday night against San Jose State, but then he just kind of wasn't able to impact the game against Weber State. He went scoreless, wasn't able to knock down any of his shots. I think he finished what 0 of 3 from the field in the that was in the second half. He was 0 of 8 from the field, finished with 3 rebounds and 1 assist, scoreless on the night, was still plus in the plus minus column at +9, which is encouraging. And he was credited with a number of defensive stops, but he's going to be kind of an X factor for me because of what we've seen in 2 games. He can go for 23. He can also go scoreless. And I think Utah's got to find a way to generate more consistent looks for him. I shouldn't say more consistent looks, but he's got to find a way to be more consistent moving forward and contribute in ways beyond just scoring. And, he finished with 3 rebounds and an assist, but those 3 rebounds didn't come until late in the game. So that's going to be important for him to find ways to contribute and impact the game beyond just scoring. Because, when he does score, it's pretty impressive. Again, 23 points on 9 of 14 shooting. That's impressive. But he's going to have to figure out some other things to make an impact. With Terrence Brown, he is dynamic. He can get downhill almost at will. At least he could against Weber State. Got to the rim a number of times, had just layup after layup after layup. He is relentless at attacking the rim. He'll get to the free throw line. Now, he's going to have to figure out other ways to score because the athleticism is going to increase as we get against as Utah starts to compete against some of the tougher teams on the schedule, the Mississippi States, Cal, Washington, then getting into conference play. He's going to have to figure out other ways to score. A pull-up jumper, a floater, a step back, those types of things. But right now, it's working. He can get to the rim. He can get to the rim pretty easily at times, and he can finish. And I think that's been really impressive. He's athletic. He can get off the floor and go up and finish among the trees, and it's really impressive to watch. And what's been more impressive is how Don McHenry, he's the veteran of this group, how he's sort of taken to playing an off-ball role with Terrence Brown. And that's going to be really, really important for him moving forward. He's got to continue to work on his catch and shoot numbers. He knocked down a number of really important 3-pointers for Utah against Weber State, knocked down the 3 that sent the game into overtime even. And, he can break down defenders at times as well. He's a crafty lefty. He can finish in a number of ways. But again, just getting more and more comfortable working off ball and working in catch and shoot situations, because I think there's the ball movement, whether it's Terrence Brown breaking down a defender or the ball movement generating looks for him. I think that's got to be a source, a pretty significant source of production for him is catch and shoot numbers. So that's going to be the key for him. And then with Utah, obviously they're not the biggest team already, and they're currently down 2 of their bigs in James Okonkwo and Ibi Traore, both of whom. So Okonkwo has to serve a 3-game. He has to sit out the first 3 games. So he's got one more game tomorrow night against Holy Cross where he'll be out, but then he'll be able to suit up after that. And he's a 6'8", 245-pound big that's athletic. So he's in that type of role of not being the tallest, not being super tall, but he is super athletic. He can get off the floor. He can go up. He can contest. He can finish at the rim. And that's going to be the key for him is finishing around the rim and protecting the rim. As long as he can be a big body to help and move Keanu Dawes off of having to match up against the opposing 5s, I think that'll be really, really helpful. And then with Ibi Traore, he's getting close. So again, remember, he suffered the season-ending injury literally the day before the season started last year. He is practicing. He's going through warm-ups and pregame, and he is getting close to returning to action. So probably not for another maybe week or so, but the fact that he went through warm-ups fully dressed and all that indicates that he's pretty close. So again, he's another 6'9", long, athletic type of big who can go up and finish. He can protect the rim. So adding those two to the mix will help Utah's front court, which right now is, again, it's already pretty thin. And without those two, it's even thinner. So getting those two back will help Utah compete against some of these bigs. But that was kind of the issue against Weber State was they had some thick boys down down low and some guys capable of posting up and moving Keanu Dawes and those guys off the block a little bit. And that was the problem. They just were able to create a lot of easy looks and finish around the rim. So getting a Conquo, getting Traore back will really help things. But, again, I think Monday night, I shouldn't say again, but Monday night, this team will be back in action at the John M. Huntsman Center. They'll be taking on Holy Cross. And this is an opportunity for Utah fans to just, again, go up, watch the team. It's a fun brand of basketball. This program, it has a long ways to go. Like, there's a lot of things that need to be worked on, need to be addressed. But this is sort of the process. Alex Jensen getting this team, to buy into what he's coaching, sort of his methodology, his schematics, his culture, his brand of basketball that he wants to play. It's going to take time. There's going to be a lot of hours of watching film and breaking down film together. There's going to be a lot of hard coaching moments. It's all sort of a process. So this team is a long ways away from, being a finished product. But, in its current form, I think there's a lot of pieces that will at least provide entertainment and provide, the sort of team that I think Utah fans want to watch, want to appreciate. There's a lot of little details that we've got that Alex Jensen has to correct, specifically on that defensive side of the ball. But I think this team is the sort of team that I think Utah fans will enjoy watching. So hope to see more fans turn out for the game tomorrow night, which will be probably later tonight as you're listening to this, and all that. But it's been a fun couple games so far already, and looking forward to more. So that'll do it for me on this episode. I'll be back with another one tomorrow. Obviously, the Whittingham press conference. Looking forward to Baylor this week, getting down there, hopefully. With I shouldn't laugh. That's awful thing to laugh at. But appreciate everybody. Be back at it tomorrow with another episode.